Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives. And what do I say? Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Welcome to the September 16th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and HeartlandSignal.com. And of course, YouTube. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. And you can follow me on X, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Substack. Posted a couple of videos yesterday there at Substack and across the board on my socials, if you will. So check those out. And catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews. And, of course, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews by going to heartlandsignal.com. Make your way over there. In our morning, as I call it, my morning brief of what's going on there, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of commentary on Derek Van Orden, who is still inviting violence. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And one of our one of the Wisconsin Assembly members, Greta Neubauer from Racine, the Democrat from Racine, is calling out Republican leaders for pushing a culture wars bill on economic relief. It's a good clip. You guys should check that one out. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to see all that we have happening there. On today's show, our guest will include Dr. Rosie Huggins from the American Cancer Society, talking about the various cancer programs that they're leaning into and how they're navigating some of the federal budget cuts that are impacting different programs. And then our good friend Kristen Crowell from Fair Share America will be with us this morning in the 7:30 hour. And we'll be talking about a proposal that she's working on, and we'll be heading off to Washington, D.C., I believe tomorrow. We'll talk about that when she's on. And we'll talk a little bit about some funding initiatives that she's been leaning into. So looking forward to having Kristen's voice with us this morning and having Dr. Rosie with us as well. It'll be great to have her take on a number of things happening with budgeting when it comes to research across the board, but particularly when it comes to medical research. But right now, check these out, Progressive.
This is a democracy. We can be critical of one another. We can belong to different political parties and have different views and act in a peaceful fashion. I have always advocated that if one is to protest, they should protest peacefully. I've always advocated that you should speak out, use your megaphones, your microphones, stand on a soapbox to do so, go to the ballot box. Those are all the ways that in politics we act. That's the way I've always known that we act in political life in the United States. And yet now we see, that there are people who not only act violently, but those who encourage that kind of violence. And in this, especially in this moment, we should be asking people to instead call for calm. And that's what I'm doing. I think that's what our leaders should be doing across the board. In these moments, real leaders offer words of solace and calm. Except for one, Every president in my lifetime has done this in the wake of political violence. They take action for positive change. They bring people together. They make Americans feel safe. They let them know violence is never the answer. This is a watershed moment in our country. We can choose to stay silent and live in fear of more political violence, or we can choose to be loud for peace, for compassion, and for an America where people settle their political differences through free speech and at the ballot box. Let's be those people. That's the path Illinois chooses, and I implore the president to do the same.
That was Governor J.B. Pritzker. Two clips that I wanted to share with you guys this morning. As much as we all know what went down last week, and I'm talking about not just Charlie Kirk, but also children in Colorado and many other things that happened that were violent or violent adjacent, if you will. I don't know if that's really, you can put those two together, but you guys understand what I'm saying. It is a time for calm. And it's the leadership from the Democratic Party that I believe is going to be the way forward in this space. And that's why I wanted to play those two clips so you guys could hear the voice of one of the leading governors and voices in the nation doing what many would say is presidential, that call for calm. So kudos to Governor Pritzker for that. And I want to make some comments before we go to break. And it's one of our clips that we have over at Heartland Signal. It's an article actually that's posted, and you heard me mention this a moment ago. Derek Van Orden, who is one of the representatives, U.S. representatives up in Wisconsin. That name, Derek Van Orden. He's inviting violence after saying there's no place for political violence in America. Hypocritical and contradictory to the words. He's accused Democrats of normalizing political violence and accused the left of leading America to a civil war. So you juxtapose that against what Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance are announcing, a crackdown on left-leaning nonprofits that criticize Kirk, calling them terrorist networks, which is a bunch of garbage. At a time, and this is the response from Democratic Party, Wisconsin Party Chair Devin Remiker. He called for a stop to the divisive rhetoric. At a time when everybody, Democrat, Independent, Republican alike, should be coming together, Van Orden is doing everything he can to encourage more violence. He, quote, his terrifying statements, which are inviting a civil war and encouraging violence against Democrats and the media, are being completely ignored by Republicans in Wisconsin and the nation. They have a responsibility to tell Derek Van Orden to stop pouring gasoline on an open flame, and I implore them to do so immediately. So, Democratic Party Chair in Wisconsin, Devin Remiker, I agree with you. We as Democrats are going to be the ones to keep the lid on this. We have to be the ones to keep the lid on it. I know that it'd be easy to say that the Republicans are at fault. They're the ones that are keeping up the mess, as my mother used to say. But we as progressive liberal Democrats, we owe it to the nation right now. In every situation that we encounter, that we push down the heat, we turn down the heat, we force others to turn down the heat when it comes to this need for the Republicans to raise the temperature and create this sort of violence towards Democrats and the media. It can't happen, okay? And so I'm asking all of us to be the champions and the leaders in that space. I'm asking all of us to keep the cooler heads. And as Governor Pritzker says, a time for calm, a call for calm. And this is a time when we, as progressive liberal Democrats, have an opportunity to show the way. Now, I know a lot of people might say it's on the Republicans. That's true, and rather than but. It's on us to be the leaders. Remember, I've said so many times, we can't just wait for the leader or the leading message to evolve. Well, this is one of those moments. We have to be the ones to say no. And we have to do it in a strong way. That doesn't mean we sit back and we don't sit back and take it. We have to draw the line and say, no, that's unacceptable. That's not allowed here. And irrespective of the community that we come from, black, white, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, Asian, Muslim, and all the rest of our wonderfulness on this globe, we have to be the ones to turn the heat down. Because the goal for the Republican Party, full stop, is they have no policies. See, this is the thing, guys. This is now turned into a distraction, Maddie B. It's turned into a distraction because they have no policy. They have no programs that are designed to help everybody in the country, blue, red, or in the middle. So if you can't help folks, let's create some garbage. Let's stir up some mess. Let's keep the temperature up so folks start to, react to each other the wrong way. Now is a time for calm. And what better group of people to do it than progressive liberal Democrats? To fight back in a way that they're not expecting, which is to call for calm. And as Governor J.B. Pritzker said, we get to do that. We get to take the lead. It's upon us to do that. And I know it may seem crazy, but listen, that's what I want us to do. It doesn't mean we don't call out their garbage. I got a whole desk here of garbage on the Republican side. But let's move away from this conversation around this violence that took place last week, meaning Kirk, not the children in Colorado. Let's still honor them. Let's spend more time honoring them than the other. And how do we do that? Is by working hard to get better gun legislation and keeping the temperature down in this space. So that's my ask of you guys this morning. I'm going to do my best to move, like Rachel Maddow, is to I'm going to keep that dude's name out of my mouth as best possible unless I get a question from someone or, we have a guest that wants to talk about certain things. So let's do that, guys. Let's do that, progressive liberal Democrats. Let's have let's put our best on to move us forward and away from this garbage. All right, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Listen up, fellow timeshare owners. If you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. That's 800-296-0150.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. All right. So let's hit them, Matt, with a couple of Choose Views news items on this September 16th, 2025. Inflation. Jobless claims have risen. The key price gauge rose in line with expectations last month as Americans paid more for food, housing, and cars. The Consumer Price Index increased an annual 2.9%, up from 2.7% in July, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. While inflation accelerated, the Federal Reserve has shifted focus to bolstering a weaker labor market. A separate report shows new jobless claims rose more than expected last week. The Fed is widely expected to cut interest rates for the first time in a year later this week, probably tomorrow or Thursday. Boeing cuts a deal to end the strike. Boeing has reached a tentative deal with thousands of defense workers who've been on strike for more than a month. The new proposal offers a guaranteed wage increase of 24% and a 45% bump on average, which is a 45% bump on average. The aviation giant says it also brings back signing bonuses. Boeing executive declined to provide details of the strike's financial impact, but the company had threatened to hire permanent replacements for striking workers. Business health insurance costs are starting to explode. American businesses are facing the biggest surge in health insurance costs in at least 15 years, according to the Wall Street Journal. The costs of employer coverage are expected to jump more than 9% in 2026, an increase that's simply unsustainable, quote, for many, according to one industry expert. Behind the rise, pricier healthcare and drugs, including GLP-1s, and the increased incidence of conditions such as cancer in working-age Americans. Many firms are looking to new plan designs as a way to cut costs, but still the situation is the worst that many have seen in, as it says, 15 years. Novo Nordisk slashed 9,000 jobs. Maker of Ozempic and Wegovy is cutting 11% of its workforce amid tougher competition from other drug makers in the highly lucrative weight loss field. Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Douster, who took the reins over just a couple of months ago, said last week that the company will lay off 9,000 jobs globally. The Danish pharma giant has seen its stock tumble 60% over the past year as Indianapolis-based Eli Lilly, which makes Mounjaro and Zepbound, proved more efficient, according to Bloomberg. Job seekers are fighting pessimism. The stagnant job market has left workers discouraged, unfortunately, at levels not seen since 2013. And the best hope may be that employment is merely stalled and not a free fall. Research shows job finding sentiment dropped 5.8 points to 44.9% in August. And last but not least, non-bosses are now hiring assistants. You don't need to be an executive to have an executive assistant, according to the Wall Street Journal. And some everyday professionals swear by them. The Journal profiled a mom of 3 who increased her assistant's hours, paying $50 to $60 per hour because she found the help so valuable. Others are using AI, including digital planners such as AI, to streamline schedules while minimizing human error. The resurgence comes as executive assistants have thinned from 1.4 million in 2000 to roughly 484,000 in year 2023. So there you go, guys. Some Choose Views news on September 16th, 2025. Okay, so a couple things I want to kind of share with you and get from you guys. Here is a question. Last week I was asked a question, I believe it was by one of our callers, Pam, who said, Richard, what is the message from the Democratic Party right now? Who is the leader? What is? And then fill in the blanks Democratic Party right now. And I said, the one thing that I don't want to see us do is wait for that one voice, that person that's going to ride in on the white horse proverbially and be the leader. That may not be where we are right now. I'll be honest with you. And I know that we get throttled in the national election last November, and we lost the House and the Senate. I get all that, and I know that there's a craving by many people, Democratic voters, like who's the leader, who's the voice. And although I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, I'm saying that we should embrace the fact that our voices are ones that need to be heard right now. And that person or those persons are going to evolve. We know that some of the top names are out there. But I'd like to hear from you guys, and whatever, as best you can. What do you want? And I'll be asking this question over time, over the weeks and months to come. What do you want to see Democratic leaders, Democratic Party leaders on a local, regional, and national level be doing right now? What do you want that to be? I don't know your answer. So I want to ask you guys, what do you want it to be? What do you want the Dems to be doing now? We know on a national level and a federal level, I should say, they don't have the numbers in the House and the Senate, but that doesn't mean that they can't still be, fighting. Shoulders back, chins up, and fighting. That doesn't go away. But I do want to know what you guys want to see what you guys want to see them doing. So give us a call, send us a text. I'd love to hear from you. So call us. I'm going to try to take as many of calls as we can get in this next, half-hour segment, in the 6:30 segment. But let us know, so we can talk about it. All right. Next thing, it's a little contest. And as you know, one of our guests and authors that's been with us a couple times and will be with us with some regularity in the weeks and months to come is Professor Leah Littman, a law professor at University of Michigan's Law School. So we're going to give away another one of her books today. And Matt's going to grab your calls on this. And there is a question that I want to know as the winner. Whoever calls us first with the answer to this question is the winner, will be the winner of a copy of Lawless, which is the book written by Professor Littman. The book title is Lawless, How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, and Bad Vibes. So what's the question, Matt? What are we going to throw at him? I got one for him. I'd like to know the answer to this question. What was the first state in the United States to legalize gay marriage? So, first person to call in with that answer, can't text it, got to call. And of course, the number is 773-763-9278, which, by the way, is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Make sure you go to credomobile.com. So there you go. What do you guys want to see the Dems be doing right now? And in terms of the book giveaway, what was the first state in the United States to legalize gay marriage? There you go. There's a question of the day, and there's a contest for a book that we're going to give away. How about that? All right. So, let's see. Oh, okay. Some of the current events that we're going to try to make our way through today. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that have been in the mainstream media and some of the things that are happening with the folks that are not covering certain things in a way that many of us want to see them cover. But I thought that groceries and tariffs and national security and a variety of other things that the administration, that the regime ran on, were top of the list items. What do I mean by that? Well, I certainly don't need the Vice President of the United States sitting in and hosting anybody's radio show. I'm not even going to mention the name, but anybody's radio show. He needs to be working to reduce the price of the things that he said and his boy Donald said they were going to work on. So, names not mentioned. I'm just saying that the vice president needs to focus on that. Get back to work, JD. We don't need you guest hosting a podcast or a radio show for anybody. That's not your job. We didn't elect you, but you weren't elected. That's not what the job is. I'm not even going to say you weren't elected. That's not the job. Get back to work. Stop messing around. I almost slipped Matt and said the other word. Oh, boy. Matt would have caught it, though. Get back to work, JD. Get back to work. And, stop playing, playing guest host on a podcast. If you want to do that, then step down. So that's my observation in that. Get back to work. And it's really unfortunate that a president of the United States doesn't recognize when the country is calling. Meaning, what do I mean by that? The country is asking for the administration to do the job, to do the work, but the administration's not doing the work. And let me give you more of an example of what I'm talking about here. The public wants Medicaid and ACA cuts to be reversed, but the Democrats are the only group of people, the only party, if you will, that's fighting for it. Republicans are not fighting for that. But members of their party that voted for them are the large groups of people that are asking for it. For those cuts to be reversed, Medicaid and the ACA, meaning the Affordable Care Act. Some people want to call it Obamacare. But where are the Republicans? They're not showing up. They're spending too much time talking about violence and things that should be done to the Dems and this, that, and the other. They're not doing any work to help with the things that matter to Americans as it relates to the pocketbook items, the kitchen table items the American people items. So where is the Republican Party now when it comes to, leaning into helping everyday Americans? See, this is why I go back and I say to people who want to criticize the Democrats' messaging, and they didn't say this, they didn't do enough of that, and Democratic voting registration is down. Let's be honest for a second, guys. Right now, the Democrats are focused on things to help bring back those benefits for American citizens all across the board, irrespective of party. The Republican Party is not doing that. So how in the hell are you going to sit back and say the Republicans got it right? They're better for the everyday man and woman. Okay? It's a bunch of garbage. It's the Democrats that are the ones that are fighting for Americans and that want to see those benefits be back in place. So let's cut the lie out. Let's get on the mainstream media about what they're not doing to uphold what Democrats are doing when it comes to those benefits. And yeah, I know people want to say the Democrats need to do this, and that's why I asked the question, because I want to hear what you guys have to say. What do you want the Dems to be focusing on and doing right now? Let's talk about that when we come back from this break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Hear that? That's what having fewer hot flashes and night sweats can sound like. Veoza is the #1 prescribed hormone-free treatment FDA approved for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes and night sweats, due to menopause. Veoza can cause serious side effects, including liver problems. Your doctor will do blood tests before and during treatment. Stop Veoza and call your doctor if you have symptoms of liver problems, such as feeling more tired than usual, decreased appetite, nausea, vomiting, itching, yellowing of the eyes or skin, pale stool, dark urine, or stomach pain. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Ask your doctor about Veoza. To learn more, call 1-866-239-1637 or go to Veoza.com. That's VEOZAH.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. Lots of sunshine in store for today. We'll have high temperatures climbing up into the lower 80s. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low of 62. For Wednesday, closer to the mid-80s for high temperatures. That stretch of sunny weather looks to continue. Thursday, working up to a high of 86 with abundant sunshine. Then some increasing clouds on Friday. We're back to 83. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now it's 64.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show is right in the 16th of September 2025. All right. So before we went to the break, I was talking about what Democrats are doing, what I'd like to see, what you guys would like to see Democrats doing. And I spoke about the ACA and Medicaid. The Democratic Party is the party that is working harder to reverse or to demand a reversal of the bill or the impact within the bill on these benefits. These cuts are going to further negatively impact the economy. They just are. And what I find interesting from the Republican Party is that, as I said a moment ago, this is what they ran on. So this just think about this for a second. The Republican Party ran on, we're better for the economy. We're better for everyday people. We're better for Americans, middle class, forgotten people. And people believe that they bought into it, and we know that they were being lied to, and now we see the evidence that they were lied to. And I'm going to be fairly, critical of what we don't do as well as we could, quote unquote, on the left, our progressive liberal democratic positioning, but as a means to get better, not as a means to just to criticize for the sake of criticizing. So, but to that end, Republicans are consistently shying away from the things that they ran on. And if we go down the list, we could start. Immigration pops to mind. Immigration is. Let me change that up. Not immigration. Deporting people. If they've delivered on anything, it's not even deporting people. It's snatching. It's kidnapping. But that's right now. The visual of that is horrible to see, but it's allowing them to dominate the conversation because they're making the case that it's protecting Americans, but it's really not. I don't feel any safer or less safe than I did during the previous administration. I don't feel any safer. I don't feel like, but I also don't feel any more in danger. Okay, so that's a neutral one for me. As it relates to other people that bought into the garbage around, getting rid of the quote unquote, they like to use the language, not me, illegals. I don't see where that's caused anything of betterment for the country. It's actually made things crazier and more chaotic. So we don't get to check the box for Republicans there, other than that they're delivering on the chaos. And you notice I'm saying Republicans rather than just saying Trump, because Republicans are the ones that are furthering this message. The Republican elected officials on a local, regional, and national level, and the voters. So if you're a Republican voter right now, you should be ashamed of yourself because you're behind this turmoil and craziness that's taking place in the country when it comes to ICE. Full stop. You should be embarrassed behind that. Second, not that this is second in importance, but let's talk about our international relationships. They stink right now. Our allies are turning in other directions from an economic standpoint to work with other countries. I didn't bring it today. I apologize, but I read a list of things that are happening on an international level that Trump's just completely throwing up on because he doesn't know what he's doing in that space. So from an international and policy and allyship, that's gone in the toilet. But that's on the Republicans. That's on the GOP. That's on MAGA. That's on voters who voted for that, whether you thought you were voting for something else or not. Let's turn to some things domestically. How about the farmers now that are asking for socialism? The farmers that are upset that they're losing their farms and that they need help now. And where's the federal government? Why isn't the federal government stepping in to help us? We're suffering. We're struggling. We're about to lose our respective farms. I don't want to see that happen to anybody. I'll be one of the first to admit I love driving through the countrysides of America and seeing beautiful, functioning farms, whether it be in a red state or a blue state, because it's a part of, in my goofy way, see that as part of the beauty of our landscape. I really genuinely do. I don't want to see those farms suddenly not operating, because what's going to happen, I'm telling you this, is that the big money hedge fund, they're going to come in and scoop up what's left over. That's my opinion. More than my opinion, there's evidence to support this, that's one of the reasons that they're suppressing these farmers so much. They want to be able to come in and snatch the land and then use it for purposes that, to me, are going to be not beneficial to the rest of the country. How do you get rid of farmers and then use the land for something else? What's that going to result in? Higher prices. So that's a Republican, that's a basket that they've got to carry, not the Democrats. The Republicans are at fault for that. And they're continuing to go down that path. Yeah, that's another one. And then you could sort of marry that up with tariffs and how tariffs are impacting that conversation. There's no question that the use of the tariffs right now, the way in which this administration and its supporters are advocating for their use is flat out wrong. The economists that know what they're talking about, not these business guys that have been put into the cabinet or these business voices that have the ear of the regime, but the true economists who understand the impact of this, the real-time impact. It's not taking 2 or 3 years for the impact to be felt. It's being felt right now. That's in the lap of the GOP. That's in the lap of Republicans. And yes, that's in the lap of Republican voters. Because if you were smarter than everybody else, then you should have enough sense to not cut yourself with the razor blade, which you've done. And the farmers who are asking for help from the government, I thought you didn't want people, you didn't believe in that. I thought you didn't believe in socialism. I thought you didn't believe in the government, reaching out to help people. But in fact, right now that you're struggling, that's exactly what you're asking for. But you voted for it. There was a bowl of ice cream on the table and a razor blade. The bowl of ice cream was Kamala Harris and the Democrats. The razor blade was the Republicans, Trump and the Republicans. You took the razor blade. You had a choice. It was right there in front of you. And she told everybody. I say it. Listen, anybody that gets tired of me saying that she told you so, then look in the mirror, because she did. However, tariffs. What Republicans are sitting on their hands about right now is costing those farmers their livelihoods. There's no debating that. There's no, well, maybe. No, if that were not the case, then they wouldn't be asking for help and assistance from the federal government, because it's certainly not coming from their state officials. So that's another one. How about this? The price of cars. Price of cars is up right now. Price of cars is up, and it's going to continue to rise. So I asked the question, for those who are in the marketplace to buy a vehicle, but you voted for, you chose the razor blade over the bowl of ice cream. How are you going to navigate that? It's the reason that I'm speaking this way about these things is that the Republicans are not the ones fighting for you. Because why should the price of a car be higher just because you were afraid of some boogeyman that looks like me, or someone that's trying to migrate to this country for a better life? Why would you be afraid of that? Why would you be so weak and shallow to be afraid of that? But now, since you chose a razor blade over the ice cream, this is what you've got. Prices are more for cars are more expensive. Oh, college is about to get more expensive because the funding that was in place is being eradicated. Interesting. Plane tickets are going to go up sooner than you think. When we get into the fourth quarter, let me just remind you of what Vice President Harris said, that the fourth quarter, as we get closer to Christmas, was going to be very expensive. And all the report. Here's the thing, guys. If there were truth to what the Republicans said during the campaign, and I'm saying all Republicans, not just Trump, all of them. If there were truth to the prices are going to be down, everything's going to be wonderful, then why are there not reports from the left, right, or in the middle media that are saying that that are showing evidence, not Fox Entertainment statements, but real data and evidence showing that those things are down consistently? Oh, wow. Price of milk is down. Oh, wow. Price of eggs is going down, down, down. Oh, wow. My grocery bill has gone down. When I go shopping for school supplies, 25% less than they were last year. None of that's happening. And this lie that the mainstream media is not reporting on that is just that. It's a lie. And the reason is because the data doesn't support it, doesn't back it up. So groceries are more expensive. Buying a car is more expensive. College is about to get more expensive. Farmers are losing their farms. Oh, what about that other thing that where I started on this semi-rant? The cost of medical care. Oh, yeah. How many hospitals were closed during Biden's administration as a result of not funding, having money in place for Medicaid and for the ACA? I mean, I'm just curious. How many of those hospitals closed? Anybody want to guess? Bueller? How many? Because Medicaid was not funded or the ACA was at a tipping point. How many hospitals closed? Anybody got an answer? No, I'm not saying none did, but we know that it's happening at a rapid pace now. Not just rural hospitals. Here in Chicago, Weiss Hospital is one. And that's in Chicago. That's in the city of Chicago on the north side. So it's the Republicans, guys. And I need you to have that come out of your mouth. It's the Republicans. It's the Republican elected officials. It's the Republican donors. It's the Republican big money. The House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the White House, state legislators, and guess what else? Guess who else? Voters, Republican voters. All of this craziness that the Republicans ran on and said that we're going to be better at, they're the ones that are responsible. They're the ones that are at fault. This chaos and craziness is not at the feet of the Democratic Party. The Democrats have to fight. The Democrats have to fight really hard. But the cause for it rests at the doorstep of the Republican Party. And I mean the entire Republican, arm, from the White House to the local voter in a community anywhere in the country that voted for this garbage. All right. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. The NFL season is back, and I wanted to be, here are the teams that support the Democratic Party, but, yikes. As in 2024, NFL donations to Republicans skyrocketed 7 times more from the 2020 election. And the biggest Republican donor was the Walton family. Not only do they own Walmart, they own the Denver Broncos. 83% of NFL's donations went to Republicans. So let's talk about that 17% that didn't. The Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Blank, he was the largest NFL donor to the Democratic Party, donating $1.3 million to Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign. And Arthur J. Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, also donated to Democrat politicians in 2024. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers donated $3.2 million to Democrats in 2024. And the Minnesota Vikings donated $32,000 to Democrats in 2024. Is MAGA still mad about the male cheerleaders now?
This is a St. Jude moment.
Ashton was a high-level athlete, and in an instant, your world flips. And your healthy 5-year-old competitive cheerleader has a brain tumor. And the physician was like, your best option is St. Jude. Receiving treatment that was life-saving for our child and knowing that that treatment would be of no cost to us was a huge weight lifted.
Learn more at stjude.org.
WCPT Replay.
I am, of course, thrilled to be joined by Simon Rosenberg. There is an incredible body of language and thought and argumentation around encouraging violence on the right against those other people. There is no such ideology on the left. It just doesn't exist. In fact, our movement is desperately, ferociously fighting to preserve rule of law and democracy. Battling liberalism is the central undertaking of our collective project. And we've seen millions and millions and millions of people this year, tens of millions, protest legally without any incident. It's incredible how many people have been on the street this year with no incidents of any kind. All of this is we're channeling our frustrations in the way that you do in a democracy.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Listen, I know in some ways it might sound like I'm preaching to the choir, and I've had a couple people say, yeah, we get it, we understand. But at the same time, I do have to say we have to keep speaking to this. We have to keep speaking to it. This is part of our challenge is that we sometimes forget that if we don't speak about these things, even though they might be known, then they become not known and they become not talked about. So yeah, sometimes we have to remind ourselves so that we are armed to go out and talk to people who send goofy things like this. Check this out, Matt. Hospitals are overwhelmed with illegal immigrants who don't have health insurance and use fake IDs and can't be billed. That's why hospitals are closing. Wrong. What an idiotic thing to say. That's not why hospitals are closing. Oh, gosh. It does crack me up sometimes what people will say. But, hey, there you go. Let's chat with our caller that has the answer to our question about the book giveaway. Who do we have on the line, Matt? Mike? Is that Mike?
Yes.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
All right, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good. So, as you know, we're giving away a copy of Professor Leah Littman's book, Lawless. And Matt tells me that you have an answer to the question, what was the first state to legalize gay marriage?
Massachusetts in 2004.
2004. Man, okay, see, we didn't ask for all that, but we got it anyhow. Okay. I'm just playing. All right. Congratulations. Okay. Yeah, Matt's got your information, and we'll definitely make sure to get a copy of the book sent out to you in the next week or so. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds great.
Fantastic. It's a great read, by the way, Mike. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And I know that Professor Littman appreciates that people are interested in her book. So thanks for the call. We'll make sure we get a copy to you, and keep listening to WCPT.
Certainly will. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, bye.
So, yeah, there we go. Give away another copy of Dr. Littman's book, Lawless, and we'll get that out to Mike. His name is Mike Taylor, so congrats to him for I love it. He not only did he know the state, but he also knew the year, so good on him. Okay, so coming back real quickly to what I was talking about a little bit earlier, we've earned the right to talk. Let me put it this way. We've earned the right to push back against this Republican idiocracy. And I don't care where it comes from. If it's coming from the White House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, your state legislatures, your local officials that are Republican. We've earned the right because what they're doing and advocating for and not raising their hands to fight back against is squarely in their lap. And we have to talk about that, guys. I know that it may seem tiring and tedious, but that's exactly what they want, is for us not to talk about it, to not engage, to not call them on their garbage and BS. That's what they want. I love it when I sit and listen to people talk who don't know that I'm necessarily listening to what they're saying about things. And let's say I'm like at a place where the news is on in a waiting room or something like that, and I watch people's body language. And if I'm listening to people talk in a restaurant, and there happens to be, if it's a restaurant that has a television or whatever, a bar to that extent, it's interesting to watch people's body language and listen to what people say. And so I'm gonna encourage us to be ready for those conversations, because if we're not, then we give up space, and I'm just not willing to do that. So let's chat a little bit about some things that are happening, some current event items that I wanted to go through with you guys. Okay, you guys saw over the weekend, you may have seen that this guy that works for Fox, They were talking about the homeless situation in America. And you guys probably, you've seen this by now, but I wanted just to comment on it in terms of, yet again, one of the things that we have to be willing to do. This guy, Brian Kilmeade, who is a Fox person, and he made reference. I'm not going to play or certainly restate the entire words, but he basically said that euthanizing the homeless was a thing to do. And now he's been trying to apologize the last couple of days. Well, you know what? The apology's not accepted. I'm agreeing with our good friend Sarah Jones from Politicus and the Daily. The apology is not accepted. He needs to be fired. Period. I'm probably going to bet some money that if I said that on the air, I probably wouldn't be doing this anymore, and the station would be right for me saying something so callous and harmful and inflammatory. So as part of us calling out and standing in the void, it's things like that. If Fox isn't going to fire him, then Fox should be off the air. So a lot of people are just saying it's Kilmeade. No, it's Fox. If Fox is not going to fire him for saying that, he was advocating killing people. Y'all understand that? Legal or I forgot the wording. It doesn't matter. Euthanization of a person that may have fallen off the wagon. I don't mean it from a substance abuse standpoint, but I played this out. I've been doing this for years in terms of our homeless communities and our homeless citizens. How do we know that that person was on the job working, slipped and fell, broke their ankle, and for whatever reason, the benefit scenario didn't play out for them as we would like, Matt. And then he or she lost their job, which means that they lost their medical coverage, more than likely, or it was too expensive to deal with the stopgap measures. Lost their home. May have lost their family. Good person. Went to church on Sunday. All the rest, Matt. All the rest of the stuff that we laundry list of the things that we say are the good Americans. And that's what happened to that person. And let's just say that somebody like Rick Scott down in Florida was part of the fraudulent behavior of his company in the medical business may have accelerated this person's lack of medical coverage and medical support. So there's so many situations where people are homeless not because they are a bad person or did something bad. Circumstances, hell, COVID. And now Brian Kilmeade wants to euthanize homeless people. So if Fox doesn't fire him, then Fox should be out of business because they're advocating that one of their employees says it's okay to euthanize human beings, and he has no connection or knowledge or awareness of how that person became homeless. So if I'm saying it, that if they're not going to fire him, then Fox should be out of business because they're advocating for something that I don't think any of us in America should stand for. And I'm probably the first person to say that about Fox. If they're not going to fire him, listen, $785 million for lying, and they're going to let this garbage still be the case. We don't need Fox anymore. They're going to allow that. We don't. Get rid of Fox. Euthanize their ability to be a broadcast network. They're not going to do the right thing with this dude. We're going to take a quick break, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Wow, talk about your double-edged sword. The internet has the resources to make us very informed, but also to make us very misled. Dr. Vaishali Gaib has some tips for getting health information on the internet.
The first one is stick to reliable sources. The second one is look closely at the information and read the medical studies very carefully. Third one is ask your doctor's opinion, always. The fourth one is take advantage of the online community. On America Online, since we have so many millions of members from all over the country and the world, you're more than likely to find somebody somewhere that has posted a message on a message board about that condition. And the final thing is use common sense. If something doesn't sound right to you, it probably isn't. And part of that is be wary of sites that are asking for personal information. When people see things posted on the internet, they think that it's got to be true. That is not the case.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at amazonbusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Israel's military has begun a ground offensive targeting Gaza City and said its intensified operation aims to destroy Hamas military infrastructure. Residents still in the city were warned they must leave and head south. At a briefing, UN Commission Chair Navi Pillay says her team of independent human rights experts has concluded Israel is committing genocide in Gaza.
The goal of the Israeli government is abundantly clear as we continue to witness the destruction of Palestinians in Gaza. The Commission finds it is genocide.
Pillay says responsibility for the alleged genocide in Gaza lies with Israel's top leaders. Israel has rejected this claim, calling the experts' report distorted and false. In the U.S., prosecutors are preparing to file a capital murder charge today against Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old man accused of fatally shooting conservative activist Charlie Kirk. And also today, FBI Director Kash Patel will confront skeptical Senate Democrats at a congressional hearing. He'll likely be asked about the investigation into Kirk's assassination, as well as recent firings of senior officials who have accused Patel of illegal political retribution. And Luigi Mangione is due in court today as his lawyers push to have his state murder charges thrown out in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. His lawyers argue that the New York case and a parallel federal death penalty prosecution amount to double jeopardy. And for the first time in almost 30 years, Colombia has been added to a list of nations who the U.S. says is failing to cooperate in the drug war. This move comes as relations strain between the Trump administration and Colombia's leftist president. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. AP correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on Lisa Cook's Federal Reserve role.
An appeals court has ruled that Lisa Cook can remain a Federal Reserve governor just ahead of a key interest vote. The Trump administration is expected to quickly turn to the Supreme Court in a last-ditch attempt to unseat her. The Fed's next two-day meeting to consider its interest rate move begins Tuesday morning, and Cook's lawsuit seeking to permanently block her firing must still make its way through the courts. Trump tried to fire Cook in August, but a federal judge ruled last week that the removal was illegal and reinstated her. The Trump administration has accused Cook of mortgage fraud because she appeared to claim two properties as primary residences before she joined the board. Such claims can lead to a lower mortgage rate and smaller down payment than if one of them was declared as a rental property or a second home. Cook has denied the charges. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Carroll. Lots of sunshine in store for today. We'll have high temperatures climbing up into the lower 80s. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low of 62. For Wednesday, closer to the mid-80s for high temperatures. That stretch of sunny weather looks to continue. Thursday, working up to a high of 86 with abundant sunshine. Then some increasing clouds on Friday. We're back to 83. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 68.
For the first time ever, you can get all of ESPN in the new ESPN app, along with Disney Plus and Hulu, with one incredible offer. The most live sports, biggest blockbusters, and most talked about shows. Get it all in one bundle for $29.99 a month for 12 months. Visit Disney Plus Hulu ESPN Bundle.com for details. Ad-supported plan auto renews at regular price. Currently $35.99 a month, subject to change. Unless canceled. Ends 1/5/26. Terms apply.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
This is Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Got to get right to it this segment and this part of the show because we've got our two guests with us this morning. At 7:30, we'll have our good friend Kristen Crowell from Fair Share America. But right now with us is Dr. PhD Rosemary, also known as Rosie Huggins. Good morning, Doc. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. I know you got a busy morning, so I won't. I will speak quickly and let you do the talking. But you are with us this morning. It's a busy day. You guys have got a lot going on, and you're part of the volunteer with American Cancer Society and Action Network. Also, you are if I have this correct, the assistant director of cancer education at the University of Chicago's Comprehensive Cancer Center. What an honor to have you on the show this morning.
Yeah, thank you. So I am both, professionally involved in cancer education and cancer research, and I'm here as a volunteer in Washington, D.C. to advocate for continued research funding and funding for cancer prevention.
So right now, there's a large number of volunteers and advocates and patients that are in D.C., being that today is the 16th, and I know that you guys are there to really kind of support cancer research and cancer prevention. What are some of the objectives and goals that you guys have with this particular day and this particular events that are taking place in Washington?
Yeah, so I believe the number I heard yesterday was about 700 volunteers with ACS CAN today, and we're meeting with, I think, about 90% of our Senate and representatives. So that kind of shows you cancer is a nonpartisan issue. Cancer is something that affects everybody. Almost everybody has somebody in their life who has either faced cancer or has been a caregiver for somebody facing cancer. And we're here today to ask Congress to continue to support cancer research and prevention funding. Current proposed funding cuts would have a devastating impact on both cancer research currently as well as cancer patients now and in the future. The effort that has been put towards cancer research in the past 30 years has decreased cancer mortality rates by about 30%. And we would love to see that rate continue to grow. We would like to see fewer and fewer people face a death sentence when diagnosed with cancer and instead maybe have a chronic disease that they deal with that is easily treated to help them live their lives.
Well, the research, the importance of research, obviously, is the things that we don't know about. And then the things that we do know about, that allows us to really spend more time with future prevention. But, the way that I see it, and I think that so many people who are not doctors or scientists see it, is when we have knowledge about something, it allows us to do better, to actually work in the preventative space. And I know that's part of what, and you've talked about this in some of the things that I've read about you, that the prevention has been so important. You just talked about the 34% decline, and with this reduction, this cut to the NIH, this is going to be even more devastating to this part of the research community. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can tell you a little bit about my story because I've been impacted by this type of research funding kind of in three ways. So my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 15, and that kind of defined the direction of my life. So I went on to get a PhD in cancer biology, and I actually did my PhD research in a lab that was pivotal in developing the treatments that my mom had for her breast cancer decades prior. I had a federal fellowship from the NIH and the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, during my PhD that allowed me to continue that research and study treatment resistance in breast cancer to come up with new ways to overcome that resistance that some patients face and that leads to them facing recurrence of their disease. In my current role at the UChicago Medicine Cancer Center, I run cancer education programs that funds through one NCI grant, 26 high school and college students to join us on campus for summer research experiences. But that funding for just 26 students allows us to reach over 7,000 individuals in the Chicagoland area through outreach programming, through workshops in Chicago public schools starting at as young as kindergarten to introduce kids to science and research. So I hope that reflects to you the impact that these federal dollars can have. For funding 26 students, we're able to reach 7,000 individuals. So these federal dollars are really used efficiently, effectively towards one goal of eliminating the burden of cancer in America.
And it is, to your point earlier, Dr. Huggins, a nonpartisan issue but the funding is being done by one party, the lack of funding or the defunding is being done, unfortunately, by the party that is in the White House and that is in control of Congress. What are some of your expectations, or it's not expectations, but objectives with your conversations with some of the committees today and the days and weeks to come?
Yeah, so that's a great point. What's really exciting is that recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen bipartisan support for increased funding for the NIH and the National Cancer Institute. So we're already seeing progress being made, and we're hoping that today can be that last push to show bipartisan support for these important funding initiatives.
There's a lot of people in communities that are not the quote-unquote metropolitan communities, but more rural communities. And I came across a billboard that the network, the Cancer Action Network, has positioned in kind of a unique place in Topeka, Kansas. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the programs we also run at the UChicago Medicine Cancer Center is focused on cancer health equity. And obviously, in Chicago versus in rural areas, cancer health equity can have a very different look. But access to quality health care is important regardless of where you live. Being far away from a comprehensive cancer center like UChicago shouldn't discount you from receiving quality care. Part of that includes funding for telemedicine, funding for screening that can be accessed just at a local health center. And all of that is included in support for discontinued funding for research and prevention. We are actually, one of my colleagues who's joining us for these meetings today works in telemedicine at Rush University. And this program itself is facing funding cuts as well that would affect people in rural parts of Illinois massively.
And that's going to be true across the rest of the country, though. I mean, particularly when we look at the cuts to Medicaid, we were talking about this earlier, and how the cuts, period, are going to impact both rural and metropolitan communities. But the research that would go into preventive measures on cancer and other medical conditions, when the funding like that is cut, it exposes so many people to more and more devastating health issues, right? I think the number in 2025 is close to 2 million Americans are expected to be diagnosed with cancer. Is that correct? Or is that number, am I a little bit off in my numbers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. And one number that came up yesterday in one of our meetings was that the cost in the next 30 years of cancer across the world is about $25 trillion. That is a massive amount of the cost of cancer, of people facing cancer, particularly people facing cancer at late-stage diagnoses when treatment becomes much more complicated and much more extensive than if we're able to prevent or detect cancer early. So I've just another example. Like I mentioned, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. My aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer. My great aunt eventually passed away from breast cancer. So I got into cancer research knowing that my family had what seemed to me an increased risk of cancer. But it took me 10 years into my role in cancer research and cancer education to be able to access the genetic counseling that allowed me to join a early prevention clinical trial that is also funded by the NCI, that is allowing me to have my potential cancer diagnosis of my potential risk detected early through increased screening and increased access to screening. And that's something that took me 10 years to access as somebody in this field, and it should not be that challenging for people across the country to access that same quality screening based on their own family risk.
Well, and not being aware of the family risk is a part of this conversation as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you can speak more to that, but tell us, I guess the question I want to ask here is, what are the things that everyday folks can do? And we know we're going to be talking with other folks this week and next week in terms of cancer survivors and cancer research. But what is it that everyday folks can be doing to be more aware, given the funding challenges that we have with medical coverage across the board, even in the space of research? But just, what are your observations, particularly given what you have in your genetic coding, what you know about your family and some of the things that you're doing? What would you share that you would want to see everyday folks be doing?
Yeah, I think a big thing is just talking to your family about your family history. One thing that got me involved in research was knowing that if I learned more about cancer, it would seem less scary to me. I think knowledge, it might sound kind of cheesy, but knowledge is power. It empowers us to know about our own health and take control of our own health care. And it's something that really can be impactful in our own lives. For people who may want to get more involved in this advocacy work, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network is always looking for more volunteers. We, at the state level, advocate for state policy, local policy. It can be as easy as just sending an email to your representatives. It doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. Young volunteers are always welcome as well. Like I mentioned, work in cancer education, and we're always looking to help get young folks involved in this type of work. So anybody interested can go to fightcancer.org to get involved as a volunteer. Today, we have our Lights of Hope national display near the Washington Monument this evening, which will feature paper lantern bags lit up to represent all of the Americans who have faced cancer and have been caregivers for patients with cancer. That is one of the big fundraising efforts of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. So anybody who is interested in donating can also go to fightcancer.org to find resources for that.
Yeah, you're looking at having somewhere in the range of like 10,000 lights in D.C. and throughout the nation, somewhere close to 85 to 90,000. Is that? Did I read that correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of us, including myself, did home displays before we came here to have our local representation of Lights of Hope as well.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, listen, I know that you've got a busy morning, Dr. Huggins, and I know you've got a lot on your plate today with all that's happening there. But I wanted to thank you for taking some time to be with us this morning. We're trying to do our part in talking about cancer research, and funding, better funding for all of our medical programs. So thanks for taking the time out to be with us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Stay safe and keep up the great work. Bye now.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the 1830s in Lowell, Massachusetts, during the rise of the textile industry, factories were hiring large groups of women ranging in ages 18 to 35 to work at their mills. The workdays were 13 hours long and had poor working conditions. By 1834, the textile market was sluggish. In response, the workers' wages were reduced by 12.5%. One of the workers, Julia Wilson, tried to organize the women to get their wages back, only to be terminated abruptly. Wilson signaled the women to strike or turn out. Over 800 women marched and signed a petition saying we will not go back into the mills to work unless our wages are continued. Ultimately, the strike failed, but they learned from their mistake and successfully battled back a rent increase on their boarding houses 2 years later. By January 1845, about a dozen of the Lowell female textile workers came together to form the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association. This would become the first organized union of women workers in American history. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Great to have Professor and Dr. Rosemary Huggins with us for that brief bit. They've got, just to remind you guys what's going on, the Volunteer Action Network, as part of the American Cancer Society, is going to be in, or they are in D.C. Today, this morning, for a very big rally, and taking place now until about 10 a.m. in D.C. And as we said, there are more than 700 cancer patient survivors and caregivers that will gather outside the U.S. Capitol to call on Congress to protect and support life-saving investments in cancer research and prevention. So that's what's happening there, and wanted to kind of highlight that briefly. They were busy this morning, so I'm glad we were able to kind of squeeze Dr. Huggins in for that brief bit. Go to the NIH's website. They've got a tremendous amount of information there. You can also go to www.fightcancer.org to find out more information and how to get involved. The cancer is something that affects all of us in one way or another, if not directly for those who are cancer survivors, someone in our family, or in our network of friends and business associates and coworkers. And so the research part of this is critically important because it is, like I said, we the knowing part, the research, the screening, the research allows these wonderful professionals to be able to look down the road to see what are some of the things that can be done to help with prevention. Whether it be lifestyle changes, whether it be, a number of things that can affect a person. Research provides us with the data that's needed. And prevention then becomes the tool that's applied when there's research to say that these are some of the things that we know scientifically and medically are concerns. And that's why I appreciate that Professor Huggins took a moment, Dr. Huggins, I should say, took the moment to talk about her own family history. And being aware takes away the fear, or at least reduces some of the fear that's associated with cancer. So, obviously, this is a conversation that's, again, in the laps of the Republicans. I know that I don't know where she sits politically, and it doesn't matter. But what matters is that the Republicans who are controlling the House and the Senate and the White House and the Supreme Court and many state legislators are the ones that are getting in the way of the funding that would help their own constituents. So when I talked earlier about the things that Republicans are responsible for, and it's in their laps, this is one of them. the research funding. What I want to know is what's going to happen with the money. That if we're providing money to research and we're providing money to save lives, where's that money going to go? Saving lives should be at the top of the list of things that we do. Protecting people should be at the top of the list of things that we do. So this is one of those areas, in my mind, that we should be spending more time in, or making sure that the money and the funding's there. And if we're going to, and then the other side of that is, if the funding is going to be cut, where's the money going? Where's it going? It's not going to prove to me, Republicans, any of you that listen to the show, following our station, whatever, or listen to anything when it comes to this conversation, or you listen to Fox, help us understand where is it going to go. I guess Brian Kilmeade wants to waste federal dollars on, spending time and spending money on youth, euthanizing people, involuntary euthanization. I guess that's where they want to put the money, versus helping people. So when we have funding dollars that are cut in ways that are designed to help American citizens in this current environment, that's in the laps, the basket, the front doorstep, back doorstep, whatever you want to call it, of Republicans, period. It is not the fault of Democrats. Democrats have to fight harder. We talk about it all the time because we have to. But that's in the lap of Republicans. There's no question about it. There's no doubt around it. All right, guys, let's put the glasses on. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito's guests are Lynn Sweet, special correspondent for Chicago Public Media, and previously the Washington bureau chief of the Chicago Sun-Times. Jarrett Yates Sexton, political analyst, journalist, and author of the book American Rule, How a Nation Conquered the World But Failed Its People. And Lisa Hernandez, chair of the Democratic Party of Illinois and member of the Illinois House of Representatives, representing the 2nd District. That's Joan Esposito. Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. And then tonight from 5 to 7, Elliot Serrano will be in for Patty Vasquez, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7, WCPT, Heartland Signal, website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And guess what? Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, we'll be joined by Army Major General Randy Manner, and he is a former acting vice chair of the National Guard Bureau. Our regular conversation with our good friend Kurt Mullett, and author Lita McCullough-Seletsky will be with us. So make your way to those shows today. And if you haven't already, you can follow Heartland Signal on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Threads at Heartland Signal. That's one word. And be sure to check heartlandsignal.com for daily updates. And you can also grab, the podcast. The Choose Views, featured interviews, and full episodes are there. So make your way there. My show page. You can click on my, forehead, and there you go. So you have some more good stuff to read and review. In a little bit, coming up in the 7:30 hour, is going to be our good friend Kristen Crowell from Fair Share America, and we'll be talking about budgets, bills, and all the rest. She's going to have something to say, I'm sure, about what's happening with the big ugly bill. And she and I are going to chat a little bit about the upcoming, God forbid, potential shutdown. Healthcare, medical care. One of the things that I just wanted to share with you guys in terms of what blue states get done. In case you didn't know this, coming out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, New Mexico, out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is the state capital. New Mexico will become the first United States state to guarantee free child care for all families, regardless of income. Credit to Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, who said the expansion removes income limits and keeps co-payments waived, saving families an average, check this out, Matt, of $12,000 per child annually. That's what blue states do. New Mexico becomes the first state in the United States to offer free universal child care to all families without there being an income consideration. Keeping co-payments waived and in check. I think that's pretty doggone good. New Mexico, blue state, way to go. And congrats again to the governor there. So if you want to do some good, if you want to share some good vibe with our other blue leaders, just go to the website for the state of New Mexico, or go to the website for Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, and send her a thank you for being the leader that you are. That's the stuff that we do as progressives. We let our folks know when they're doing good things. I know there's people that always want to throw garbage at Democrats, but this is something that's taking care of kids. So take some time out of your day-to-day. It's not going to take you long. And just go to the state's website, go to her website, and send her, send her a kudo. And if you want to pick up the phone and make a call, just call their office and say, hey, we heard about that, the fact that New Mexico has become the first state to offer universal child care to children, to all families, rather. Call. Leave them a message. I think they'll appreciate it. See, that's what we do to encourage each other, to keep each other moving forward in the fight, is we give shout-outs when we need to. We push when we need to criticize, but when things like this happen, we have to compliment the folks that get the work done. So do that for yourself. It'll make you feel good to make the phone call or to send the text or to send the email or whatever their communication is. So do that. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT will be broadcasting a live in-person Union Strong panel on Wednesday, October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. And you're invited. Join me, Tom Hartman, and WCPT's morning host, Richard Chu, at the Ironworkers Local 63 Training Center in Broadview. Panelists include Paul Wendy from Ironworkers Local 63, Rob Fulton from Riggers Local 136, Cliff Horowitz from Horowitz & Associates, Andy Rico from IBEW Local 176, and Tom Villanova from Southland Friends of Labor. This event is proudly sponsored by Ironworkers Local 63, Riggers Local 136, Horowitz & Associates, IBEW Local 176, and Southland Friends of Labor. Wednesday, October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m., Ironworkers Local 63 Training Center, 2523 Lexington Street in Broadview. That's just off the 25th Street exit on the Eisenhower Expressway. All listeners must register to attend this free event at WCPT820.com. Just click on the banner.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Carroll. Lots of sunshine in store for today. We'll have high temperatures climbing up into the lower 80s. Then for tonight, mostly clear, a low of 62. For Wednesday, closer to the mid-80s for high temperatures. That stretch of sunny weather looks to continue. Thursday, working up to a high of 86 with abundant sunshine. Then some increasing clouds on Friday. We're back to 83. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 68.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Arguably, the things that this administration has done between DOGE and the budget worsen poverty. There's cuts to SNAP. There's firing of federal employees, disproportionately black and disproportionately black women. We've seen, I think the numbers, it's over 300,000 black women have lost their jobs since the inauguration of Donald Trump in the federal civil service. So it's not even that they're not doing things to improve underlying poverty. We might be worsening it.
They are doing everything to worsen poverty, to make the conditions in which people in this country are living in worse than they were before this administration was in office. And so you saw with the big ugly bill, the transfer of trillions of dollars of resources from people in SNAP benefits, for health care, for the things that they need in order to survive, from poorer folks and people who are more struggling, to the wealthiest and most powerful people in the United States of America. The largest legislative financial financial contribution from the federal government that has ever happened in history to further entrench poverty, to make it more difficult for people to be able to live. Every decision that this administration has made, the President of the United States and Governor Bill Lee, Cameron Sexton, Rand McNally right here in the state of Tennessee, everything has been, how do we make more money for corporations and billionaires, and how do we take more from people who are struggling? How do we make more people poor? How do we make more people suffer? And then when you deal with the consequences of that instability, you deal with the consequences of their actions, they say, well, we have a crime problem, and now the only solution is to send in the National Guard. That is not the only solution. That's a false solution. That's a red herring that distracts away from the fact that we are not dealing with any of the things that could actually eradicate the problems that we are seeking to solve. As a matter of fact, we could deal with them, but they refuse to. They're running the complete opposite direction at the behest of millionaires and billionaires who are making profits off of the pain and making profits off of the poverty and the further entrenchment of a social caste system in this country.
That was Tennessee State Rep Justin Pearson on Ali Velshi and MSNBC talking about this disproportionate amount of wealth redirection, and also known as the Big Ugly Bill. With us this morning is one of the leading voices in the nation, the executive director of Fair Share America, who's been with us before and is hot off the bus tour. Good morning, Kristen Crowell. Welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. It's good to hear your voice. Glad you're back. I thought you would appreciate that clip from State Rep Justin Pearson, because I know that you've been one of the big fighters of this giveaway to billionaires, this giveaway to folks that don't need it for reasons that we don't need to be hoisted on the country. So bring us up to speed, Kristen. What's been happening? I know that you were so dedicated to the bus tour. It was an honor to meet you and have a chance to talk with you. But how are things been going as you wrapped up the tour? And I know that there's a lot that's happening right now and some of the things that you're going to be doing in Washington.
Yeah, thanks. So we, as you mentioned, Fair Share America spent the entire summer. We spent 10 weeks traveling the country. Over at the end of the day, 15,000 miles, 18 states, nearly 50 town hall events to really stand with the American public in opposition of the big, ugly law, but also to hear their stories, to hear how this wealth hoarding through this bill is going to impact local communities, our neighbors, and small business owners, to really make sure that we are putting a human face on the sheer scale of what the GOP in power is doing and will continue to do if we allow this to be unchecked. And so the entire month of August was really about August in America. The representatives in Congress they go home for recess. So August was a critical time for us to be organizing in the districts to make sure there's no mistake, that the constituents and the voters are furious about being betrayed, not only because they were shut out of the process, but now that this bill is law, they know the consequences are what they will be and how they are starting to prepare to take care of each other when the government is literally throwing millions of Americans under the bus. And the last town hall we did in the bus, we went up to Anchorage, Alaska. Wow. Which was on the very, very end, and the bus did not go to Anchorage, just to be clear, it's way too far. But there were over 600 people who are really demanding something different from our politics, something different from our elected officials, and really starting to set the scene for what comes next. And that's what Fair Share America and our hundreds of partners across the country are working on. We are working on what comes next, what is possible beyond just we have to double down on making sure there is a price to pay, a political price to pay for passing this law, but also what is our vision? What would speak to this populist energy that meets folks where they are for their demands, for their hope, and sets a new course? And no one in our movement is rolling over and accepting this. We are continuing to push on and set the table because there will be a day when our folks are governing again, and we need to be prepared to deliver and undo this big, ugly law. So that sets the scene of what we're rolling up our sleeves, we're fighting, and we're getting to work on what comes next.
Kristen, thanks for that. Two of my colleagues and another co-host for another show, Michelle Peltier and Michelle Duster, who's an author and historian here in Chicago, both said versions of what you just said. When we are back in leadership, back in power on all levels, we have to be prepared to deliver on the things that have been torn down and the things that have been not properly funded. Before you came on, I had Dr. Rosie Huggins with us, who's he's a volunteer with the American Cancer Society Action Network, and also a professor here in Chicago, at the University of Chicago. And she's in D.C. Right now, fighting for this, pushing back on funding being cut to NIH and national, and the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, because of what you just said. I mean, my question is this, Kristen, where are the dollars going? They're cutting back the funding. Where are the dollars actually going to go?
Sure.
I mean, this is a question that, and you and I have talked about this in private. Yeah. Where are those dollars going to go? If that much money, $18 billion, is being cut from NIH and NCI combined, where's the money going? That's a lot of dough. Is it going to go to make sure that, that the cost of goods goes down? That doesn't seem to be happening to me. If there's a cut in one area, where is it going? And I'm not asking this as a rhetorical question. I literally, like you, want to know what's happening with that money if it's being cut. Well,
$1 trillion was $1 trillion, which is a scale that is really hard to get your head around. $1 trillion was just given away to rich people in the form of tax cuts to the ultra wealthy. So it's going straight to their pockets. They are taking it out of our social safety net, or the programs our communities rely on, and they're hoarding it. This was the largest wealth grab through legislation in the history of our country. We have income inequality at the worst in our lifetime, possibly ever. When you are looking at what is even happening right now in Washington, D.C., where we are facing and staring down yet the possibility of another government shutdown. And wrapped up in that fight is also the ACA tax credits. So the Affordable Care Act, folks that rely on the marketplace for health coverage, which right now 50% of the adults that are covered by the ACA are small business owners. They're self-employed adults. These are middle-income people. This is all they are taking on and thinking about cutting and throwing that program off the cliff. It is unfathomable to think about the destruction that they are willing to inflict on our communities to make more money for themselves. And there's no other way to say it. This is wealth hoarding among the billionaire class to enrich themselves and to control the process. It is about consolidation of power. It is about fear. I mean, we saw some of the funding used to drive up the funding for ICE and military to invoke fear and division, largest ever, invoke fear and division at the community level. That's what this is. It is us versus them, and they are counting on us sitting this one out and being too afraid or to feel too hopeless or to literally not have the resources to hold each other up and fight another day. And again, 10 weeks out in the country, 50 stops. They have no idea what they are fomenting with the American public, who really understands this. This is so brazen and so clear that they are doing this at our collective expense, and the American public's not going to stand for it. Well, and we are demanding something different. And frankly, there's nowhere to go that's worse than where we are now. I mean, if they shut down the government, things can't really get worse in terms of the economics. Our prices are going up. They're ripping our health care. They're taking away food assistance, which, by the way, hurts farmers, hurts agriculture. So there is nothing left to do except lock arms with our neighbors and demand something different.
And
that's what's at stake.
I get, and not making this about me, but more about the context. I get criticisms from people that say that, I talk about fighting too much. I talk about, and I don't, obviously I don't accept that. I don't agree with that, but people can say what they need to and want to say to me on that topic. But what you just said, Kristen, is exactly where we have to be. We do have to lock arms and fight together. I say this now at the top of the show. Progressives, chin up, shoulders back. It's time to fight. We have to fight because I sometimes wonder, do people take it seriously when we say the taking away of these support systems, not funding cancer research, not funding the NIH, and a list of other things that are happening from a federal standpoint are designed to take away the safety nets so that people have nothing to do but do what? Turn on each other. And so rather than turning on each other, I'm saying let's turn toward each other and work to make sure that we are supported, because that's the only, at the end of the day, Kristen, I think that's the only real tool that the Republicans have. And I'm going to call it out and be not even being partisan. I'm just being honest. That's the tool that they have, which is to try to pull us apart and to make us fight with each other, because when that happens, then it allows them to do so many other things, which is, one, keep up more turmoil, but also when it gets into political side of voting, is to implement martial law. It's to see terror and fear in the streets, gives them a reason. It gives them a reason to say we want to have shutdowns of areas of the country because these people are not acting in a way that we as a federal government think is prudent. Take away their benefits, take away their access to care and services, not fund programs, drive up the cost of everything. Chaos. It gives them the power, to your point, that they need consolidated so that, knuckleheads like Stephen Miller can say what he says publicly. It's just,
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, they're counting on us, acting on our worst impulses and pitting ourselves against each other while they make out with all of the money and all of the power and all of the programs. And again, I go back to Alaska because that was the last stop, and there were 600 people on their feet saying, Kristen, what can we do? What can we possibly do? And so, one, yes, this is making it political. This is about holding them accountable and refusing to give up on this country. We have a beautiful country. Our people are beautiful people. And so if we're not willing to fight for that, then we've lost. The second thing is real people will be hurt, and they are being hurt. And we have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to physically take care of each other. And that means we're going to have to feed people. We're going to have to drive people to doctor's appointments. We're going to have to sit with folks that are being kicked off of Medicaid and do the forms for them to make sure we are protecting each other. And that, to me, is how we debunk all of this BS that they throw in their face, that we're so divided and we don't understand each other and we're so different. No, when you get in rooms and you break it down, the majority of this country right now opposes the big ugly law. People that voted for Trump are being hurt. They are seeing that the folks that they thought were standing up for them are sacrificing them for politics, for money, for power, for gain. So there is a moment that we have, I feel like, we have a mandate to act differently. We have a moral, it has to be our moral priority to work across whatever divisions we think are out there to make sure people do not die. And in that work, we are creating a new base, a new majority that can go on offense, that can say, absolutely not. We are the richest country in the world. There is no excuse. The clip that you played from Representative Pearson in Tennessee talked about entrenching poverty. Well, they're also entrenching wealth and rich. They're entrenching themselves as the ones with the money, and absolutely not. We are not going down. I am too old, Richard, to be silenced. I am too old to be silenced by folks, This is go time, ladies and gentlemen. And what I see on the ground in the country is people want a playbook. They want to link arms. They want to make sure we are protecting each other. And these are regular people. These are farmers. These are small business folks. These are folks who are working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet while they see the cost of groceries go up. While, my cup of coffee, I was horrified yesterday. My coffee's gone up 50% since this administration started.
And
we can't sustain that. The public cannot sustain this much at once. So there's backlash on the ground. There is backlash on the ground, and you're seeing it. You know that the GOP, that Donald Trump and his allies understand that there's backlash, or they wouldn't be rigging the rules and going after new House seats in Texas and going down the gerrymandering path. They know they can't win on the merit anymore.
Yeah.
So let's rig the rules. And I think they've just, every day that goes by in this country where they force their hand on the American public, the more that people understand and see, it's so clear. I think I laugh because I think you and I have chatted for, months and months now. There are some of us that have been saying this was coming for a year. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, it was like, I remember sitting down with some of my family members, and they're like, Kristen, that's a little bananas. Like, that's a little out there. This is America. This is a democracy. And I'm like, well, this is the playbook. This is what other countries have done. We need to learn the lessons. And right now, regular people are like, oh, this is what's happening. And absolutely not. We have to stand together. And so, there are good things to point to as well. I will be flying to Washington, D.C. this evening to stand with a group of Democratic senators led by the Senate Finance Chair, the Democrat Ron Wyden, to reintroduce the Billionaire Income Tax Act, which, again, they have money. They should pay the same as the rest of us. And this is a bill that would make our tax code more fair and bring back billions of dollars that have been stolen through the big ugly law. And we can't just sit down and take it. We cannot just accept that this is what is going to be done. We have to push back. We have to, we have to use our smarts. We have to use our relationships. And we have to listen to each other. And then we have to get on our feet and do the work.
Yeah,
because we are at a critical moment. We are at a really critical moment.
Yeah, there's so much context and so much value to what you just said, Kristen. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking to Executive Director of Fair Share America, Kristen Crowell, and tell us a little bit more about the meeting with Ron, Senator Wyden, and this billionaire income tax program that you guys are putting forward. I'm sure more listeners want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so tomorrow there's a press conference. This bill is being introduced. It's the Billionaire Income Tax Act. There are over, I believe, 20 senators have already signed on as co-sponsors. And it's really simple. This is a bill that will level the playing field to ensure that we are taxing wealth. The way that billionaires create and hoard wealth is different than punching a clock and going to work, right? They make wealth on the appreciation of fancy assets or the stock market, or they take a loan against their wealth, which is, again, I'm just a regular lady with a checking and a savings account. I don't understand how this all works, but they take a loan out against their portfolio, and they don't have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
And so this bill allows us to tax the billionaire wealth the same as workers who are punching a clock and doing their shift work get taxed. It levels the playing field. This bill would shut down loopholes and shut down incentives that, again, allow them to pay their fair share. We're not saying let's gouge them.
No.
Simply pay the same tax rate as workers right now. It's, I meet firefighters, nurses, frontline workers, teachers, grocery store employees who pay more in taxes than the billionaire class.
And a lot
it's
of people,
unconscionable, it's unfathomable, and this bill takes that on.
A lot of people, Kristen, when they hear that phrase, that statement, this is where we as voices have to be constantly doing our best to inform. And that my point is this: when people hear the statement, they're paying more. Those frontline folks are paying more in taxes than this uber wealthy class, and I'll say that includes, uber wealthy, whatever you do for a living, person, businesses, and all the rest. When we say that they're paying more in taxes, in some cases, that's the literal statement in terms of the real dollars, because some of the folks in those classes have so many loopholes and so many exemptions that they pay zero federal tax.
That's right.
But the
zero federal tax.
The other part of this, the literal part, is the percentage. And this is where the fair share part of our conversation comes in, and we want to kind of further define it. And I'll let Kristen take the baton on this. But we're talking about a percentage of the income, whether the income comes from that person being paid for their services, that uber wealthy person, their business being paid for the income that it derives, on the income that it derives, or on the income that's derived from their investments. The fair share part of this is that they pay at least a percentage that mirrors what a firefighter who's been a firefighter for 25, 30 years and just cracked the six-figure ceiling is making. The same percentage. So if they're paying 28, 29, 30%, then a billionaire should be paying the same on their relative income. Fair statement?
Fair statement. Fair share America. We're all for the fairness part. And we know that it works. I mean, there are examples that come from the states. We talk about millionaires tax in Massachusetts. It was 4 extra pennies on every dollar over $1 million. It's generating over $2 billion that state can invest in education, in transportation, in delivering to the middle class and working people. We saw in Washington state. Now, Washington's interesting because it's a state that doesn't have an income tax. And so you cannot just say we're going to have a millionaire's tax because there is no income tax. And so advocates and lawmakers in Washington passed a capital gains tax. Again, wealth where the rich are making money, tax it like the rest of us.
Right.
And that is generating nearly $1 billion in revenue. And voters in both states approved of these policies. This is where the public wants to be. And our politicians, local, state, federal, need to put agenda items on the table that speak to the pain in this country, that speak to the income inequality, and gives us a different reality. That's why I'm still hopeful, Richard. That's why I will not sit down. I will not shut up. We are continuing to do the work. And, the dichotomy in Washington right now, you have a looming government shutdown with leadership in GOP willing to throw people, willing to hurt people again who rely on the ACA, on the marketplace for their tax, for their health care. That's one side, willing to shut down the government, possibly massive harm. And on the other side, you have Democrats in the Senate in particular saying, absolutely not, we're going to fight for tax fairness, and we're going to make the billionaires. We're going to create laws that make them pay their fair share. And we're going to start reducing some of this massive inequality. The CEO pay gap right now, from what it was, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it's 600 times that of their hourly workers.
Yeah.
It's 600 times. Don't tell me they can't afford to pay their fair share. They can absolutely pay their fair share.
There's no question about it. And that's a conversation that we got to have a deeper dive into, and maybe we'll set aside a segment in the next weeks to come when you get back from D.C. Matter of fact, let's do that where we can have you on for a longer period of time and get into some of the nitty gritty of this and some of the numbers, because I've got a lot of numbers that go into this. And I asked the question earlier, where's the money go? I know where it goes, and I know you know where it goes. Kristen, listen, travel safely. Thanks for being with us, as always. When you get back, let's get together, let's talk, and let's plan out some more conversations on this so that we can have more people have a better understanding of the work that you do and the importance of the numbers in that conversation. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. And as always, thank you, listeners. And if you want to know more, it's www.fairshareusa.org. Sign up. We send out a newsletter several times a week to let you know what's going on in Washington with our tax dollars. So thank you so much, Richard. Thank you to the listeners, and we fight on.
That's right. We fight on. All right, Kristen, be safe. We'll talk with you soon. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Kristen Crowell, y'all, go check her out, Fair Share America. Check out the work that they're doing. They're a powerful organization, and she's right. We're not going to give up on this fight. Thanks to Dr. Rosie Huggins for being with us this morning. We have folks in Washington that are doing the work. We can do the work, too, by supporting them. But right now, as I say every day as we wrap up the show, guys, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
His job is to defend us and protect and defend us, not declare war on us.
That's Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth speaking on WCPT's live local